Deleted session, October 20, 1975. Good evening. Now, comments concerning several areas. First of all, generally pertaining to yourself. You have been trained, like most of your contemporaries, to deal with an unsafe universe, to hold your own amid tumultuous threats, social, economic, spiritual, or otherwise. Robert's methods of dealing with such a situation were highly apparent in his physical symptoms. Yours were not as easy to perceive. They did not show. In an unsafe universe, you run your personal life along certain lines. This applies generally more or less, and specifically to you also. In that context, you do not trust good fortune. Indeed, it seems practical not to trust it. You hide good fortune for fear it will be taken away. It does not seem to belong in an unsafe universe. You do not tell people that you are doing well. You tell them that you must work from morning to night, that you do not have enough time. You have to prove that you are as hustled as they are, that your friend in out of the cold. Rob noted our cat Willie had cried at the kitchen door. They said, "What beliefs do you have to change?" Listen to your own conversation. When your friend Lino comes and speaks of taking time out, you say, "I wish I could afford such luxury," or some such. You think of yourself as virtuous. The idea of not having enough time becomes your badge of virtue, showing that you are hardworking and not an indolent artist. You work at home. You are reacting, and have been, to some of your mother's attitudes toward men who work at home. So you try to prove to yourself and others that this is really not only as difficult as outside work, but more so. If people might think you have little to do all day because they do not see you going to a job, then you can show that you have even less time to yourself than others. You have built up the idea of free time being wrong, sinful, no matter what you tell yourself about wanting more of it. That is one thing. Deeper, however, is the fact that the belief in an unsafe universe sets up certain habits of resistance and more practically of self-protection. The resistance is protective. It shows itself in fears that seem perfectly realistic, and indeed highly practical. The feeling itself is not let go of easily, for you and others rely upon it. It is a state of alarm and readiness. You are so used to feeling unsafe that you consider alarm of one kind or another as a realistic approach to life. When you begin to realize that you do indeed live in a safe universe, these patterns of reaction begin to break up. To some extent, however, as they do, you can feel weaponless or unprotected. Then you read the newspaper and you see that New York City is in great financial difficulty. In a certain way, this is almost reassuring, because it correlates with the old habitual belief system that says, "Aha, yes, there is a threat. I was right all along." Thus the older beliefs momentarily feel their old unity, and it is again realistic behavior to feel yourself also threatened. The body is then pushed in different directions with resulting strain. Before you would accept that threat as realistic, the entire content of the unsafe universe protects itself by comments such as, "It is too good to be true," where any good is immediately suspect, while bad effects are considered quite natural. This is highly important, because it means that you have been taught to accept, for example, bad conditions as appropriate and realistic, while immediately suspecting so-called good events, waiting them for the egg to fall, so to speak. Ron noted to me, "They said your symptoms have been reassuring to the portion of you that habitually followed the old line of thinking. The reasoning falls thirsty. Everything is going well. The books are selling. Ruber is definitely improving. With so much right, something must go wrong, or things would not go right." Meaning realistic. Besides this, the disease serves to protect you from the frightening fear that if everything goes well, something must be wrong, because in an unsafe universe, that is a belief, so you provide a little wrong to preserve the larger good. Your ideas of time, however, are detrimental. They were formed in line with the old beliefs, and so, of course, they seemed oddly appropriate. In some important areas, however, your own beliefs have changed lately. We could have a break, but let us continue. Ross said, "All right." I opened a beer for Jane. They said, "Let us deal with Prentice." There, you have made some good strides. Your good strides there, however, led to your momentary enough concern with New York City's economic fate. Your beliefs in the safe universe are spreading. That is why you used the symptoms, just in case. In the unsafe universe, however, you, not you alone, believe that something good will be fought over. The books prove their merit in that reality, because they are fought over to whatever degree. John can be assured of their worth, then, and so can Prentice, and so can you. At the same time, the so-called conflict is also a result of your new beliefs, but taking the form of events that seemingly make sense to all of you. Ruber sees, and so do you, that other publishers would be glad to take our work, and you no longer feel trapped by Prentice and Prentice's incompetence in certain areas. You never were. I do not mean you personally necessarily, but the climate is changed. It does become safer, and even you personally this time can see Prentice as a creative adjunct with which you can work. In your world, however, and according to your beliefs, some realistic events had to prove out the practicality of the safe universe in publishing terms. So you have a creative conflict. At John's level and in his unsafe universe, the events still prove how valuable the books are, since, to whatever extent, they are fought over. At Ruber's level and your own, the events show you that the universe, as it applies to your publishing world, is safe, with leeway for action, and also opens up creative relationships with people and Prentice that were latent before. Now, these become practical where before they were not considered so. This means that a great deal of energy is released. Now, our books themselves released their own energy into your world. The ideas were and are needed. Their richness brings about the financial richness, which is, as you know, assured. It is not virtuous to remind yourself of the poverty of others. In the old line of thinking, such a remark would be considered unfeeling. When you dwell upon, for example, only New York's economic status, you keep the feeling of threat going. In realistic terms, this applies to some extent to you and New York City as well. As inappropriate as this might sound, thoughts of your own fortune, financial situation help you increase that abundance, but it also helps to increase the abundance of others. On one level, for example, you are then freer with your money, distributing it to whatever degree in the economy. In deeper terms, The thoughts of abundance affect the inner order of events, minimizing the threat felt by others. Worrying about taxes, again, to whatever degree, is the same sort of thing. It is as if you can treat your abundance only if you can prove to yourself that there is a threat connected with it, or say, after all, it is not all that good. These are all examples, yet they point out habitual reactions that belong to the unsafe universe, that seem appropriate and realistic there. Are you tired? Ralph said, No, go ahead. Say said, take a break if you prefer. Ralph said, okay. Say said, now, first a few more remarks pertaining to the above material. If you are with friends, either of you, and someone, for example, Bill Callahan, says that he envies you for being able to work at home and be free, neither of you ever say, it's terrific, just what we wanted, or some such. Instead, you immediately say something like, I would be great to work just so many hours a day and come home and be free. Or you emphasize how busy you really are and how little time you really have. So, if it seems that you do not have enough time, that is hardly surprising. You have given yourself such suggestions for years. Now, about pocketbooks. Interesting and amusing. The woman there, Rob noted, Pat. Cecil picked up all of your own negative ideas, yours and Rupert's, about Phil and the Prentice, and aimed them at John. Rob noted, Nielsen. Cecil, this confirmed John's belief that he is not understood. He would not feel it safe to be understood in an unsafe world. The woman, Ralph noted, Pat. Cecil likes the books, is highly enthusiastic, quite sensitive, so that she did pick up your joint dissatisfactions with Phil. She sympathizes with Phil, however, and with the book. Ralph noted ESP power. Cecil as an underdog book. There are personal connections between the woman and the man at Phil. She liked him, so John bore the brunt. Rob noted I should have asked, what kind of connections? They said, give us a moment. Rupert's condition is literally improving at an amazing rate, as his entire body is being regenerated. The improvements must flow together, however, so that one completely healed area may not show that improvement until, for example, another area catches up. It will be healed, but not functionally apparent. You cannot equivocate, you or Ruber. You cannot say, I live in a safe universe, but anything. You cannot say, I live in a safe universe, but I am frightened by the economic problems of my state. Move to Pennsylvania or to Topeka. It will make no difference, because the threat will follow you and erupt in one way or another. While you believe in that system, you form your private and joint reality. Those beliefs of your own that went underground, so to speak, must be altered. I have mentioned the important ones this evening. Time works with you, not against you, underline 4 times. The symptoms are really minimal. To some extent, however, they represent the weight of your own beliefs that Rupert added to his own symptoms. He refuses to bear that weight any longer. There is no doubt that he worries about them, yet he is determined to be free. Your work with the pendulum, again, is important, for it assures him that you believe enough in a safe universe to encourage his freedom and your own. Your own will appear in a burst of greater creative freedom. You did not have symptoms in the past, and now they are minimal. Your belief in an unsafe universe, however, was reflected in a dampening of your creative abilities in contrast to what you can produce. As your beliefs change completely, as they are, you will then experience a far greater creative freedom and release from the tyranny of time that those beliefs brought about. Again, there is nothing wrong with you physically. Given your beliefs, the period is a more or less natural transitory stage that is meant to bring out those beliefs, so that they do not remain invisible or as blacks, preventing you from entry into the safe universe. Do you have a question? Ralph said, no. Seth said, give us a moment. This period is also necessary for Rupert's creative processes. The physical release will bring him into a closer contact with his psyche, in which he will find it safe to progress even further in his studies and development. What he terms heroic impulses were impeded because of his beliefs, and the whole concept will become much clearer to him in the very near future. He will become quicker in his motion at all levels. Certain necessary developments are taking place that will appear in politics, and they are developments that will now be within his reach. The nervous system is being regenerated and strengthened. Certain psychic connections will be made easier, and entire new aspects of his work will appear. The body's rate of progress is such that it allows him an intimate awareness of the healing process and brings about a companionship with the body that he needed. The longed-for definite improvement in walking is about 2 weeks away, involving agility particularly. Overall balance has to be maintained while these developments occur. Very shortly, however, increased speed will appear. Overall, released joints at first move slowly or at different rates, but the improvements are accelerating, or rather they are the point where overall body motion effectively takes place. Give us a moment. The movement of the joints makes sound. The sounds are messages. When hormones are released, they make sounds. Those sounds are messages. I say sounds, yet these inner body sounds can only be compared to an inner body situation where sound operates as light. You are used to thinking in terms of opaque or transparent color. In those terms, there is opaque light and transparent light as well. Sound has light value, and light has sound value. These operate within the body. Each frequency, so to speak, operates as a messenger, triggering body response before an actual response is apparent. In any body difficulty, the light and the sound frequencies become out of tune, so to speak. The overall true tone is muddled. When Rupert began politics, he experienced his true tone mentally and psychically, though he did not realize it. This gave him something to go by, so that now, having decided to be free, he is physically and unconsciously bringing about the physical equivalent of that true tone. You can have more on my book whenever you want it. Because of your joint ideas of time, Rupert sometimes considers it a threat to your future time. This attitude will vanish on both of your parts as you become more proficient with the ground rules of a safe universe, and of station and a fond good evening. Ralph said, thank you very much, said good night.